Hey, welcome back to Boxes and Bubbles, where today we're looking at Transformers Shattered Glass #1, published by IDW.
Written by the aptly named Danny Law, art by another awesome name, Guido Guidi, colours by Jean-Paul Bove, where's that Bove, and colour assists by Ed Pirrie. Letters are by Lettersquids. Just for some context at the start, I'm something of a casual Transformers fan. Mostly, I'm a fan of the original animated series, though I'll be honest and say that while the later seasons did have some cool moments, I'm mostly a fan of the first season, when Prime has his axe and Megatron has a mace, and of course the animated movie in which there is absolute carnage and Hot Rod ruins everything. We'll just call the Michael Bay movies an abomination and move on. All of which to say, I know a fair bit about Transformers, but I'm by no means a superfan. I've tried once or twice to dip into the comics, but like most long-running books back in the day, I never found my in. A few Transformers books have been coming out recently though, and again, I didn't really quite know where to jump in. This one really caught my eye, and I decided to give it a shot. If you don't know anything about Transformers, or you've fallen out of the loop, don't worry. As you'll see, this is pretty different to any other version of Transformers. So, right away, by looking at the cover, this looks pretty different from any Transformers that I know. I didn't even recognize this guy from the cover. You know who that is? It's Blur. That is Blur? With an eye patch and battle scars and bullets lodged in his face? I had no idea that was him. So a page or two in, when people start calling him by name, I raise an eyebrow. What caught me off guard the most about this book is the writing. It's extremely good. I didn't know what to expect from a Transformers tie-in that appeared with, at least as far as I know, relatively little fanfare in comic circles, but this was great. I hope it doesn't fly under some radars because dang, the inner monologue from Blur that opens this book is so good. It reads like a film noir-esque tough guy, and a tough guy is definitely what he is in this book. He's what's known as a body scrapper, an Autobot bounty hunter on a post-War on Earth Cybertron collecting rebel Decepticon heads. Literal heads. This is as grimy and adult as I've ever seen Transformers. When Blur goes to deliver his latest bounty, he gets word of a fresh new one, put out by Goldbug, leader of Gold City, one of the 3 territories on this new Cybertron, along with one seemingly run by Pax and a third by Prowl. And there's one uninhabitable area called the Static Zone too. The new job is to bring in a Decepticon alive, or at least incapacitate him enough so that Goldbug's men can bring him in themselves. Being the fastest Autobot means that Blur has a pretty good chance of getting to the bounty before anyone else does, despite being the last to hear about it, thanks to his previous job which took him through the Static Zone. Who exactly the job is to capture, I don't want to spoil, so I'll do my best to cover the rest of what happens by dancing around it. Blur rushes over and sees that someone else is already on the target. No worries, he thinks quickly and proposes a temporary alliance with the enemy. It seems like body scrappers have no problem throwing each other under the bus if it means that they'll be the one getting a payout. When the target is incredulous about siding with Blur, Blur launches into a story about how he didn't really want to side with the Autobots or the Decepticons, and how there's no chance anymore for anyone to be neutral. Again, this writing is so good. It gives Blur personality and a backstory, though whether or not it's actually true, we don't know. It raises a good point about the good versus evil nature of Transformers as a franchise too. You pick a side and that's it. There's never really been much more to it than that. Blur is planning to use this alliance to ultimately bring the target in, but the ruse appears to sway them, and they agree to let Blur help them get to where they're trying to go, which just so happens to go back through the uninhabitable Static Lands. On their way though, the enemy blasts Blur from behind and starts a fight. Turns out that two can play the bluffing game. The target knew that they couldn't beat Blur in a fight, and so they lured him into a place that they could use the terrain as their advantage. To say any more than that would be spoiler territory, so I'll let you check it out for yourself to see the outcome of that battle. This book presents a Cybertron more complex than any I've ever seen before, with territories and possibly factions, bounty hunts, and a rebellion. Blur's narration and dialogue all breathe so much more personality into the character than just guy who talks fast, and the end of this issue has me itching to see what comes next. Looking into it, Shattered Glass is an alternate reality that's been running in one form or another since BotCon 2008, so perhaps this one is the first comic set in that universe. Since it's an established universe that's been running for quite a few years, I hope that means that this one gets to keep running for quite a while. I'd be pretty bummed to have been wowed by all this potential depth, only for it to be a 5-issue run.
This was an awesome surprise. I wasn't expecting this at all. I'm really excited to read some more, but until then, if you're interested in any other books that came out recently, make sure to check out the rest of the channel for some more spoiler-free reviews. And follow me on Twitter at BoxesandBubbles to hear about more books that I didn't have time to make videos for. That's all for this time, but I'll catch you later.